I am Brian.
I am Julius.
This is the Ascendant Project. The mission of the Ascendant Project is to explore the origin of political positions in individuals. A contributor writes a 750-word article and then gets interviewed.
The purpose of the interview is to bring out other views and hopefully life experiences that sent the author down the path to the position expressed.
Although some debate will undoubtedly occur, this is not intended to be a forum for debate. Rather, it is a project to better explore and understand the individual and the American experience as a whole. Through understanding, we rise.
All opinions and views expressed, written or verbal, are solely the ownership of the one who expressed them. The Ascendant Project does not hold or endorse any views or opinions.
In Defense of Joe Manchin by Brian Smyers. Joe Manchin was a United States Senator representing the state of West Virginia. He came into office November 15th, 2010, and was able to maintain his office until January 3rd, 2025. A member of the Democratic Party, but representing a conservative state, he was viewed as a centrist and a moderate. Some even called him a conservative Democrat, though I'm sure the Republicans would have called him the most left person on the face of the earth since Karl Marx and Max Weber if he ran for president on a Democratic ticket. Being forced to straddle his constituency and his party loyalty was not an issue when the Senate was evenly divided. However, in years where the Senate was 50-50 or 51-49, his vote would become crucial. Representing West Virginia under these circumstances would prove to be rather stressful for him, culminating in his decision not to run for re-election in 2024. According to 538.com, before it was dissolved on March 5th of this year, Manchin voted with Trump during his first term 50.4% of the time and Biden 87.9% of the time during his presidency. When Joe Manchin was elected into office, one of his first pieces of legislation was the Build Back Better Act. Joe Manchin thought this piece of legislation would prove to be inflationary and voted against it. Eventually, because of his concerns, the legislation would be revised and put forth again as the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Manchin voted yes, and the bill passed the Senate on a score of 51-50, with Vice President Harris casting the tie-breaking vote. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, also called the COVID-19 stimulus package, was a $1.9 trillion economic stimulus. Manchin opposed an amendment during debate that would have had the first $10,200 of unemployment benefits be tax-free. Eventually, he agreed to an amendment instead that would have unemployment benefits end September 6th. Also, he was able to negotiate a lower amount for each weekly check. During negotiations for other aspects of this bill, he opposed the provision in the bill that would have raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour nationwide. After negotiations with Manchin, income caps for the stimulus check eligibility to individuals and couples were lowered from $100,000 to $75,000 and $200,000 to $100,000 respectively. He was considered a possible presidential candidate for the No Labels ticket, when No Labels was considering getting a moderate and independent candidate on the ballot. When No Labels decided that an independent run would likely result in Trump getting reelected, Manchin just declined to endorse Harris because of her position of ending the Senate filibuster. I said in an interview for Julius's article, Unaffiliated, that it is important to have a pain in the ass when it comes to your political allies. These people moderate idealistic aspirations and bring them down to earth. There were many times when I hated Joe Manchin, but I knew the Senate was split 50-50 Republican and Democrat during the 117th United States Congress. Without his vote, the American Rescue Plan would not have passed. And without his support, the Inflation Reduction Act would not have passed. Looking back, it is obvious that his fears about the inflationary aspects of these bills were founded. If Democrats had given in to him more, Harris might have won the White House. It should also be noted that if Harris had succeeded in removing the filibuster, Donald Trump would be getting more legislation passed today and would have to rely less on executive orders. I am for many of the things the left proposed that Manchin opposed. However, I am cognizant of the fact that he was a Democrat representing a conservative state. Should a Republican have held that seat during that time, these two bills would not have passed. Once Manchin retired, Republican Jim Justice won election and now holds his Senate seat. Without Manchin being a pain in the ass to Democrats in the Senate, it will be harder to take the chamber in 2026. If Democrats are truly going to be a big tent party and take the middle, we need more Joe Manchins. More importantly, we need to respect and welcome people like him.
All right. Brian, we are here today to discuss your article in defense of Joe Manchin. Are you ready?
Do I have to be?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm here. We have limited time. You have to be ready right now.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. So why don't you just start by summarizing your essay, your article in your own words?
Okay. So I remember how much flack Joe Manchin received during, especially the first 2 years of the Biden administration, where he was resistant to a lot of the things that most of the Democratic caucus was against. However, I was cognizant of where he was from and who he represented. And I thought that he was doing the best he could given the people he represented. And as far as the state of West Virginia goes, I thought he was doing wonders because I was thinking more in terms that he was doing leadership with them as opposed to representing. So I think for West Virginia, I think he was like pushing the bounds of what West Virginia would accept, even though he was really, well, like I said twice in the article, a pain in the ass to Democrats while doing it. Because, Democrats wanted more out of him. So.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So I always kind of felt sorry for him. I always thought he got a bum rap, because I thought he was doing the best he could.
Yeah.
And he did it well and honestly.
Yeah. West Virginia is kind of an interesting state, right? And we're fortunate enough to be neighbors to
yes.
Living here in Maryland. But historically, like West Virginia has always been kind of a I don't know how you describe it exactly, but it's maybe straddled the line a little bit politically. I mean, you go back long enough, and they split from Virginia originally.
Yes, during the Civil War,
right?
Yep.
And then there were the labor rebellions, I think.
Yeah, coal mines,
West Virginia. Yep. So just kind of like an interesting mix of people from different perspectives, and yeah. So I agree with you. Joe Manchin kind of represented that. I don't know if middle ground is the right word exactly, but like that mix of
the blue collar working class type thing, which, I mean, blue collar working class, in my personal experience, people are pretty conservative. However, when it comes to things like unions or not, then that's on the left side of the aisle. And it's a great case of where you can have liberal tendency and be a conservative person, or you can have conservative tendencies and still be liberal on other various issues. So, and that's the world where Joe Manchin lived.
Yep.
Yep.
Fair enough. So can I ask, like, what happened? What recently inspired you to kind of return to this time, to this person?
I think it was your article unaffiliated.
Really? Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
How is that?
Well,
Please explain.
if you remember, we kind
Please
of,
boost my ego as much as possible.
if you remember, we had discussed during the interview. I had brought up Joe Manchin, and you
Yes.
kind of got I wouldn't say a visceral reaction, but it was like your body language, which was totally apparent on the radio.
Right.
Um, it was like you're kind of surprised I was taking Joe Manchin's side, as liberal as I am. Is at least that's how I viewed your movements.
Fair enough. I think you
So
probably interpreted it well enough.
yeah, um, which as I was writing this, I was thinking, here he is writing an article called Unaffiliated,
Uh
and he's upset that Joe Manchin wasn't party line enough.
huh. Yeah, well, I,
So
I think, well, I'm kind of like, I assume you would agree though that there's a lot there. Like he was kind of vilified by Democrats,
yes,
and there are a lot of people on the right side, on the Republican side, who some who view him even as a hero, for
yeah,
speaking his mind, or whatever their opinion might be. I mean, would you agree, or
maybe. I mean, it's when Donald Trump was in office the first term, he voted with him 50% of the time, which I have to admit is like really high for most Democrats. Um, but when Biden was in office, he voted 80% of the time
Mhm.
for Biden's policies. So I don't know. I mean, it's people say they want an independent politician, and then they get out the pitchforks when they get one.
Hmm.
So
Can you think of anyone else who, like, anyone similar in a similar position, maybe from in a similar demographic, like?
I'm I want to say cinema, but I'm not sure if that's actually the case or not.
Mhm.
I know those two were going hand in hand during those first 2 years, but I don't know enough about her background or her state that she was representing to know how well was. I don't know her story,
Right.
so I don't know how well she represented
Fair enough.
the state.
Do you remember the thing I was reminded of as I read your article? Was do you remember the Blue Dog Democrats?
Yeah,
The Yeah, during Obama's first term,
yeah,
and they had existed for a few years prior to that, but they were supposed to be this kind of like group consortium of conservative Democrats,
hmm
yeah, Southern Democrats, or what might have been called Dixiecrats,
yeah,
a long time ago. And they had this kind of like similar sort of outsized influence on the party, because as they were trying to um, pass Obamacare, pass the Affordable Care Act, uh, they had asked for a number of concessions, and because they were so critical to getting the 50% cloture vote, they got most of what they had asked for. Um,
was that the reason why we didn't get a chance to vote on a public option?
um, I don't recall actually.
Okay,
I don't recall specifically, but I know they had yeah, they had opposed like a lot of provisions regarding abortion and
right.
things of that nature. And ultimately, for anybody who recalls history, they did kind of you know roll over and vote with the Democrats despite some of their objections,
hmm
because they understood it was still something that would benefit their constituents, or whatever the reasons were. Would you say Joe Manchin is kind of in that same boat?
Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean when I think of West Virginia, um, I mean maybe this is total stereotypical of this Marylander in me, but I'm thinking coal mines. you know. And when I went to support a friend when, her dad died, when I was driving down the main interstate down there, I was just like, forest, so much forest in those mountainous areas. And
Yeah, why don't we like go back,
yeah,
go through that a little bit? Like, so as I said, being a neighbor to West Virginia, both of us have been to West Virginia many
yeah.
times. But you mentioned now that going to into West Virginia for a friend. Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of visiting West Virginia?
First thing that comes to mind, and probably for me, I mean, this is true for me as a kid and true for me now, is mostly Harper's Ferry, because that's usually where I wind up going to West Virginia if I'm
Yep.
going to go to West Virginia.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the train trestles. I'm thinking the two rivers coming together. I'm thinking the Civil War. Um, because Harper's Ferry was taken the day before the Battle of Antietam. Um, and so I'm just thinking the history and all that of that area.
You
I'm
mentioned
thinking
the
Shepherd
trees.
College. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, which I guess is Shepherd University now. I think that happened like a decade or two ago. Um, but that's the area of West Virginia where I've always been associated with, with like Charlestown, West Virginia. That's another big one. Inwood.
Hmm.
It's those areas that are really close to mid Maryland, that come in. And when I went down to support my friend, that was in Charleston, roughly, and that area of the state is like completely different than the part of West Virginia that I'm more familiar with.
Yep.
And I mean,
Yeah. Some of the off beaten path kind of places are.
different culture,
Yeah.
totally different culture,
Yeah.
you know, and that's, I mean, this is the land of Harry Byrd,
Hmm.
the senator who
Yep.
got
Senator Byrd.
who brought the Navy headquarters to a landlocked state. You know, this is yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of other famous people from there off the top of my head, but
I mean, politically, Byrd would be another great one to do an article, another essay on.
or
By the way.
Roscoe Bartlett. He was the representative in Western Maryland and Mid Maryland for a long time. Eventually, he got gerrymandered out, which I had mixed feelings about because I'm against gerrymandering. But at the time, I was like, oh, finally, somebody who supports my views, because I disagreed with Bartlett. But Bartlett has moved to West Virginia, and and he's like off the grid,
Hmm.
completely off the grid now. Like his house is all solar. He has his own uh, water system.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, it's and his compound is like completely self sufficient, because he's and shielded from EMPs, I think, if I remember right.
Wow.
So yeah, he went to West Virginia, and he went like so far right. He's kind of on the left about some things now, in terms of environmentalism and all that.
Well, right, yeah. Well, we've
So
had that
yeah,
discussion. Honestly, we haven't had that discussion enough on air. But
no,
like how you can go so far right or left
yeah,
to just kind of come out the other side.
yeah, completely. I mean, it's why so many Bernie Sanders voters voted for Trump,
All right.
and AOC for that matter, like we
Yep.
discussed, I think last episode, if
We
I
did.
remember
Yep.
right. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely. You mentioned a lot of the greatest hits. You mentioned the trees, like it's a very mountainous area too. So
yes,
I imagine that kind of and when I mentioned some of the off beaten path kind of places, like there are a lot of small towns that have really kind of taken a hit
yeah.
over the past several decades. I don't know exactly when that started. I mean, the easy scapegoat would be like the 2008 financial crisis, maybe. But
Well, there's also like in case of the miners, people are always like, well, we need to mine more coal. It's about the coal mining jobs. But they don't realize is that the companies themselves have taken away those jobs, because
mhm.
so much of the drilling and every that is now automated by robots, or big machines. And And so those jobs just aren't there anymore. The purpose of business is to make money. It isn't to employ people. It's people think that, and this is one of the philosophy things that I have, um, that really came to the surface during Romney's campaign was, it's about the job creators. That was how those tax cuts for the rich were promoted. It's about creating jobs.
Yeah.
But the purpose of business is to make money. If you can make $100 million more with the same labor force you have, you aren't going to hire any more labor, because if you do, that's less money for you. So it's all about the demand for work,
Yeah.
and as much as it is about profit.
And that to me is why like West Virginia is such an interesting state politically, because you have some of these larger coal mining operations which tend to kind of dictate some of the policy. And I say dictate, as much as anyone can dictate, but they do donate an outsized amount of money to campaigns.
Yeah.
But you have people there, and by people, from a political standpoint, I really mean voters. Like people who are they are in need of some kind of support, right?
Yeah.
And that was, you mentioned a couple of the things in your article too, things that Manchin argued for, specifically like lowering income requirements.
Yeah.
I imagine that probably benefits a lot of the people in the state, which I don't know specifically, but I think West Virginia is probably at the low end of the like income per capita.
Yeah. They are a very impoverished state. Um, and $15 an hour would probably do the people there wonders. But the thing is there's not enough GDP there to support it.
Mm-hmm.
It's it you know it's kind of like, I mean, we've had discussions like this off air regarding various things, like gun control or whatever. What's necessarily good for Montgomery County, Maryland, is not necessarily good for Garrett County, Maryland.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
right.
is in the mountains, which is very rural.
Right.
Um, it's you can't really hunt in Montgomery County, so gun laws should naturally be different.
Yeah.
It's but out in Garrett County, things make sense, and they definitely need more freedoms. So it's things like that. Um, and so when I take a look at West Virginia, they're definitely more in the Garrett County side of things if we're talking Maryland.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So like, when was the first time you like first remember hearing about Joe Manchin? Like, in what context?
Ooh. I think it was probably with the Biden administration, come to think of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
really
think that
hard.
was about it for me too.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to keep track of, people, specific people that do not represent your state.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every now and then you get people who rise to the top, and like AOC, who I think is pretty notable in that she doesn't head any committees.
Mm.
Most of the people we all know of, and we all love or we all hate, they hold high power committee positions, and they get a lot of press. And so to get the people who do not have those positions but get the following, they're pretty dynamic. um, and so with Joe Manchin doing what he did, you know leveraging, I'm not even sure if leveraging is necessarily the right term, because he wasn't doing these things because of the United States. He was doing these things because of West Virginia. You know, he had to represent West Virginia's interest in this, and the people of West Virginia. And it might have pissed off, 23 other states senators, but he had his loyalties, which is the people who voted him in year after year.
Well, and I also think it's interesting viewing, because I didn't know about some of the I'll call it tactics, but that might be like a bit too strong of a word. But how he, like you mentioned, he argued against a raise to the minimum wage, but then also argued for lowering income requirements to receive aid.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, you can get this view that you make a concession here so that you can get something else here, and hopefully you still serve this that group of people that you represent.
Hmm.
Like the outcome could still be the same.
Yeah.
It's just about how you get it passed. Maybe,
Hmm.
I don't know. Do you think that kind of politics is good, bad? Like, what's your opinion of that kind of thing?
Um, could you rephrase that again?
Sure. So you have, uh, so Joe Manchin had argued against raising the minimum wage, but had argued for lowering income requirements.
Yeah, and he, if I remember right, it was. I could check the article again, but there's also about having an amount of it be tax free.
Yes. Right.
So
So you can kind of still serve the same group of people.
yeah.
Um, and there's a way you can, for Joe Manchin, it was kind of making some concessions, maybe to what could be considered right leaning policies,
Hmm.
uh, while still finding a way to promote left leaning policies.
Hmm.
So like that kind of like politicking where you kind of like go against what might be the party line, but still supporting the party.
Yeah.
Um, like is that like what are your feelings about that? Like, are you
Well, I mean, once again, it kind of comes back to the people he's representing. I mean, for the most part, they're pretty conservative.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and we discussed with the poverty and all that, it kind of makes sense, the stance he took. Um, I find it what I'm more concerned about is the fact that how vilified he was, you know,
Mhm.
for this, and I don't think there's really to this day amongst the Democratic Party that there's really much appreciation about what he actually did and how good he actually was for the party because his concerns with the Build Back Better Act um, was that it was inflationary. And, inflation was one of the driving forces that got Donald Trump elected. So he had the foresight that just was not there amongst the party. I feel like in a way he's been proven right for having those concerns, but he really has not been vindicated.
Okay. So how has your opinion of that changed over time? Like, did Joe Manchin kind of influence that a lot? That opinion?
Well, I mean, he's lost his voice.
Hmm. Well,
He's
yeah,
no longer
he's no longer.
in office anymore.
Well, let me take a step, kind of like take a wider view for a second. And this might sound like an awkward question, but so feel free to stumble about it a little bit. But like, what is a political party to you exactly?
Ooh, political parties are good and bad. They're good in terms that they can help focus a message. They can create a party platform, so that way when they're in office, they can advance an agenda with efficiently. Um, they're bad in terms that they look for loyalty and they um, they create an us versus them
Hmm.
mentality, especially in a two-party system like we have here.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, in Europe, there are many parties, and so nobody necessarily gets the full majority. So they always have to form a coalition and
Coalition.
are always making compromises just to be in power.
Yeah.
Where in a two-party system, you're just it's my way or the highway,
Hmm.
and it seems like that's what we've kind of gotten the last few administrations that we've had. Um, it's, I mean, you have like this current administration in here. They say we have a mandate. Yeah, you won by 1.5% of the popular vote.
Right.
You know, how is 1.5% a mandate, especially when it didn't cross the 50% threshold?
Yeah.
So, it's, but they view it as such. Um, one of the things that I'm thankful for Joe Manchin about, and I mentioned in the article, is you know Harris wanted to get rid of the filibuster so they can push through pro-choice stances. If that filibuster isn't there today, you already have Congress that's ceding power to the presidency. Instead of executive orders, it would be laws that would have to be repealed. Mm-hmm. So, it Manchin kind of was right on that. Because of the filibuster is there as a check. And I'd never had thought about the filibuster being a check against the executive until this current administration and writing this article. But if that filibuster isn't there, then things could really be codified a lot stronger than they are with executive orders.
Okay. So let me kind of like go back to my previous question where I asked you about like, has your opinion changed or over time?
Well, yeah,
So
because I was pissed off at Joe Manchin.
this is what I like.
Yeah.
Would you say you're more? Let me rephrase just a little bit. Would you say you're more empathic? More
empathic, like empathetic?
Yeah, more empathetic. I'm sorry.
I sense Joe Manchin's emotions.
More sensitive to Joe Manchin's emotions.
Oh, I feel his presence.
Yes. All right. Yeah. My mistake. You got me.
Okay, Troy. Anyway, yeah. So,
yeah. Would you say you've become more empathetic to his position?
Yeah, I am totally more empathetic to his position because he was pissing me off, and but even then, even when I was pissed off at him, I respected where he was from and I understood his struggle. But oh my gosh, I wanted so much more done, just like, when Obamacare was getting passed, I wanted so much more done with that than what actually happened. And, it's like you have this opportunity, but in the end, you can only get what you can get, You aren't always going to get what you want. But as the Rolling Stones once said, you get what you need.
Right. So, you don't always get what you want, but if you
try sometimes you get what you need. Yes.
So like, how did you develop that level of empathy though? Because I got to say, there's a lot of people who still cannot find that level of empathy.
Well, I don't know. I've always been, I would just say introspection. It's sometimes in order to look outside yourself, you kind of got to look in. Which please pass the bong. Anyway, it's yeah. So sometimes you just got to look inside and look back, and just realize, the things that he was fighting for then are actually kind of important now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find I like 1,000% agree with that sentiment. Looking back on history definitely helps to inform, like a lot of the panic we see right now is in many ways like history has kind of repeated itself in a lot of ways, and I'll talk about some of the ways that's happening in a future article, but I think looking at those times in our history, like for example, the when President McKinley had argued so strongly for tariffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
here we are.
Here we are now. But we got McKinley. He was only president for a short time, and the country changed and dealt with that, with the repercussions of those decisions, as they do with every president
Mm-hmm.
over in the time since then. And I think it's important to look at the time now as something that 80 years from now is, hopefully we'll look back on and just say it was a blip in our history.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at this point, though, I have my doubts. I mean, he's been elected twice, which means his 8 year span will be spread over 12. And,
But at the same time, we have, Joe Manchin was, there's, um, he's not going to be the last person like that, right?
right,
Yeah.
right.
Um,
Or at least we hope.
we
I
hope.
mean,
It's difficult to see who the disruptors are going to be.
it's not
right
going to
now.
be in the House. You can gerrymander the House. In the Senate, you represent the whole state.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to gerrymander the state, well, you kind of got to, change the borders of the state.
Right.
So, but, it's, I mean, and I really don't think, if Trump were to succeed in annexing Canada, I don't think it will count as two senators. Thank you very much. I would want,
You'd want them to
I'd
be
want to be,
split.
I want at least 10 senators out of that. Yeah, there should be at least 5 states that come in. But, dead issue. I think that Canada is,
Yeah.
yeah, especially with the new elections that have happened up there,
Right.
and the new prime minister has held his ground on that. And Trump seemed to change his tune this morning, or last night. But yeah,
Well, tomorrow's a new day.
tomorrow is a new day. Who knows if that's going to come back or not?
Yeah. um, but okay, so you mentioned at the very end of your article, that the Democratic Party needs to accept more people like that. I mean, do you think the Republican Party has already kind of done that? Like, you call out, this is not a gotcha. I guess I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
like, you called out one party specifically. Do you think that's already happened on the other side?
I don't know. I mean, I know so many conservatives right now who feel like they don't have a party.
Mm.
I am really surprised that the Lincoln Project, hasn't pulled their resources to pull together a national party so that way people can have a home. I mean, there's always been a third rail. There's always been a desire for more choice. Um, it's to a certain extent, I feel Donald Trump's politics is very reminiscent of Ross Perot's.
Mm.
And it should also be noted that Donald Trump ran for president under the Reform Party ticket at one point. And yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I'm like
people
trying
forget
to
this.
remember back. When did that
Yeah,
happen?
that was I mean, I think he came after Ross Perot.
Yeah.
I think he was the candidate after that.
Huh.
But it's like totally forgotten in history.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like he was the presidential candidate for the Reform Party ticket. Where's the Reform Party now? It's totally gone. They infiltrated and took over the the Republican Party apparently.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's interesting. I mean, and then even now you had no labels considering a presidential ticket. So they know that there's more people are not happy with the two-party system. It really gets this article and this discussion really dovetail nicely with unaffiliated and that discussion and that aspect, because people are looking for choices without necessarily boundaries. They want to be able to vote for people in primaries that are based on how decent people actually are, as opposed to how hardline they are, which you can't do with gerrymandering. With gerrymandering, the hard line always wins. Whether it be hard left or hard right, because it's the primary. You're excluding the people in the general for the primary, and so it's hard to get good candidates in a gerrymandered system in the general election to choose from. And people are just becoming more and more disenfranchised, if you will. They don't feel represented because of the system, because of how much money's in the system to gerrymander. Um, yeah. Yep.
Interestingly, since you mentioned that, I'll just throw out a really quick thing that I'm following. If people want to leave comments, I'm more than willing to look at them. But I saw yesterday there was an amendment introduced to reverse Citizens United. It was a constitutional amendment.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Like, was that done federally or was that done on a state level first?
It was a senator. I cannot remember her name, but she introduced an amendment to the Senate,
Yeah.
um, to which would overturn uh, Citizens United.
Yeah. It's so important.
Yeah, I think there's almost universal agreement among everybody
Yeah.
that that was one of the worst decisions.
I mean, and oh my gosh. And when you take a look at, the controversies surrounding the Supreme Court right now, I mean, nobody's ever come straight out and said that they're being bribed, but the lack of transparency about their expenses and their incomes and everything else that happens.
Yeah, that does not help at all.
It does not help at all. And it really looks like, from my perspective, it looks like, decisions like Citizens United were paid for. I mean, obviously I have no proof of that, so I can't really fully accuse them of that. But, I mean, it's, I smell smoke.
Right.
I smell smoky in here.
Right. A little hickory.
Yeah, a little bit of hickory.
Yeah. No, because so going back to the closing of your article, do you you don't necessarily agree? You mentioned a bunch of like smaller third parties that come and go, and it is kind of unfortunate how that happens in this country, that they ultimately end up being absorbed by one party or another.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I suppose your view would be that we just need to, instead of having smaller houses, we just need to have a bigger house as a political party.
Yeah, as a political party, I do believe we need a bigger house. We've always said that we are a big tent party. We can bring in people from all these different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. Then we get somebody like Joe Manchin, and I don't know why I'm like sounding really good right now, but then we get somebody like Joe Manchin, and I just feel that we kind of run him out, because he's not
towing the line.
Yeah. He's like, for the Battlestar Galactica reference, he became the Gaius Baltar of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Everybody's forgiven except you, because we don't like you very much.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think Manchin would say about that, about trying to grow the party? Like what things do you think Manchin would advocate for in that regard?
What would Joe Manchin advocate for?
Yeah.
Hopefully he's not pissed off enough still not to advocate for anything. I mean, it's treated pretty badly. Yeah, I mean, I think he would just advocate for, if you really want to take the middle, you got to welcome people in the middle. It's not going to be about, the New England agenda or the California agenda. It's, you gotta make inroads in every state.
Uh-huh.
You need a 50-state strategy, which Howard Dean ran in 2008 to get Barack Obama elected.
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to talk about Howard Dean's.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
The
sound that derailed the campaign.
Yep.
Yeah, he was head of the DNC, and he laid the groundwork after that Neha moment. And he was interested in making democratic inroads in all 50 states. He wasn't interested in the red state, blue state sectionalism game that we kind of have now.
Uh-huh.
It's what when your presidential campaign is like, all right, we can do this. We just have to win all the border states. I'm sorry, you're playing defense at that point. You're
Yeah.
you're not looking to grow.
Right.
You're writing people off. And I brought this up in the last interview. But yeah, I mean, Abraham Lincoln didn't campaign in the South, and so sectionalism, especially in terms of politics, has torn this country apart before. And if we continue to play that game, it'll tear this country apart again.
Fair enough.
Yep.
And Virginia has already given up West Virginia, so
Yeah.
we can't. I mean, that's already been decided. How many other states could just give up part of their state?
Yeah. well, it helps when that when there's a civil war going on and
Right.
you need another state to pass a constitutional amendment. So
Yeah, well, I suppose it helps.
100%. So
Yeah. Any ideas for follow-on articles?
not really sure. I mean, it's I'm working on another article in the empathy series. I mean, right now, there's tons of stats and stuff in there, but the thing about stats is it just stops flowing. You know, yeah, stats just. The flow of the article is like no longer human if you're just throwing in stats. So it's at the 750 words and has no soul.
Yeah.
The article has no soul. So I might write something else. I might abandon it. I might keep on with it. But
So Manchin hasn't called you to be his biographer.
no, he hasn't. Oh crap! That's right. I needed to change the. Frack. I needed to
Too late now, buddy. I know exactly what you're about to say. But
yeah. So for everybody listening, I wrote the article and it was titled "In Defense of Joe Manchin," and that's what it is articled right now. And then yesterday, long after I wrote the article, because I write these usually about a week or two ahead of time, I Google "In Defense of Joe Manchin," and there's a book titled "In Defense of Joe Manchin." I'm like, crap. Crap. I did not mean to do this. So, yeah. So sorry.
Who wrote the OG, the original?
I don't remember. I think I was just so disappointed. I couldn't remember the author.
Well, hopefully all will be forgiven in our podcast that has 3 listeners.
Totally not. Hopefully 4.
Hopefully 4.
Well, yeah. We have 5 subscribers, but one of them's me. So.
Right. Well, one of us me.
Oh crap. Okay, so we got 3 people. We have 3 people. So.
Yeah, but
all right.
I don't really have anything else. You want to close it out, or you have anything more you want to? I know we're like.
Well, yeah,
I realize how
we're only at 40 minutes in, so this is actually pretty short for us because usually we run about 60.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of do have a little bit of news. We will eventually be bringing on another contributor.
Yes.
Mr. Nick Fisher.
Nick Fisher.
Yeah.
Whose sultry voice will make the rest of us want to quit.
He has such a radio voice. Oh my gosh. Makes me want to move into television.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. But anybody listening to this can look forward to his views.
Yes.
I think we're both really looking forward to having him on board for many reasons. He's just generally an all-around great guy.
Yes.
Also, war hero and tends to lead
2
somewhat
tours
conservative.
Afghanistan, I believe. Yeah.
Yep. Tends to lead somewhat conservative, so hopefully we'll balance the rest of us out.
Yeah, he's a conservative constitutionalist.
Yep.
Army vet.
Yep.
Purple Heart. Multiple Purple Heart. So he brings a whole new perspective. He's one of my best friends. And so
would you say now I've heard his article about you and it's pretty glowing.
It's
but
pretty
you said everyone needs an asshole. Is he your asshole?
No, actually, he is when camping with him, the rule of camp is nobody complains until Nick Fisher complains, because
Nick Fisher.
he does not
Never.
complain.
Nope.
He does not complain. He's definitely not a pain in the butt. And it's what's really great about him is, unlike me, who is talking faster than I'm thinking, Nick thinks faster than he talks.
Mm-hmm.
So, he might speak a little bit slower, but the quality is so much better.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah. I look forward to him being on the show.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yep.
All right, well then I'll close it out with my final question.
Oh boy.
Your article is in defense of the Manchin. What do you think of the Fu Manchu?
The Fu Manchu. Well, I am thinking actually of carving out a Ted Lasso in honor of my father's birthday.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Get the lasso mustache.
You
Yeah.
got nobody else can see, but you got a pretty full beard.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose the whole beard, or just
Yeah, I'm going to cut the whole beard and everything
boy.
down to the Ted Lasso mustache.
Nick, you need to get here quickly. Somebody needs to stop him.
No, actually, it's for my It's also my nephew is graduating from Old Dominion that day.
Oh.
So like on my dad's birthday. So it's going to, yeah, it's going to be like a way to bring my dad there. Who
Nice.
Who died back in 2013. So,
yeah.
yeah. I'm sure it'll make my sister's jaw drop. But
Good times.
Yeah,
Good times.
Totally. Yep.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. You take care. And everybody, please like and subscribe and comment. Email us. Let us know what we can improve upon. Let us know what we're doing right. And tell us a joke if you want to.
Yeah.
That's about it.
There we go.
You take care.